Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room, a show where we demystify the DMing, GMing, prep, and occasionally game design process. I say that longer version of our introduction because, sure enough, today we are in fact demystifying the game design process. We are turning our attention briefly away from the worlds of Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu and other games that we've been interacting with, and taking a look at a not single player RPG, not even one page RPG, what we have done before. Spencer comes to us with a theme, an idea for a two-person RPG. So give the people a little breakdown while I turn around and grab something off my shelf that we were talking about just before we hopped on.
So our name gives a bit of a hint to this. The title of this video is Post and Present. Originally, the idea was chrono correspondence. I had seen games, solo journaling RPGs like Thousand Year Old Vampire, things like that. And I thought, how do we do that and keep it sort of more like a game instead of an individual piece? And the idea was sending mail between two players. One of those players taking the part of you in the future, and the other one taking part as you in the present. So there would be, a shared person. I guess Jane Doe or John Doe that you are controlling in this time. It's not actually you doing it. But in the future, the far-flung future, 10, 20, 30, 50 years later, there is some major issue. We're leaning towards something like, AI takeover, something along those lines. And future you is sending messages through the post to the past for you to rectify the mistakes that led to that point. What we're thinking is you would respond with what changes you've made, the things you've done. You'd send that through the mail to future you again. They would get that. There'd be prompts they'd follow. They'd resolve the things that happened. And then there's always you've done this, but this is the next complication. You made this change, but that also meant that, the person that we love is gone. Whatever. So you need to go and change that again. That's the idea. Now we need to figure out how it works. Yeah. We need to figure out a bunch of stuff. And the alternative to this is we want to use the post because I love the United States Postal Service. And I think that we need to fund them in whatever we can. But you can do it via email if you're trying to save a little bit of money because stamps are expensive, and I understand that. So this is an email game or sending it through the post, thus post and present. Anyway, that's the pitch.
I have one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just so I know I'll forget if I don't say it now. A funny thing. Before we got on, we were talking. We said end state just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be funny if at the end state it doesn't end. It turns into a 3-player. On the DLC, the cast.
Pause. Your signal just absolutely pooped its pants.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good. You might be
better
okay.
Now?
It's delayed.
Oh, I see it's going up and down. My connection.
All right, I'll tell you what. Hold on for just a second.
Right,
let's circle back to that idea. I'm going to explain a little bit about how these 1- and 2-page RPGs tend to work. So, 1- and 2-player RPGs. So, Spencer was asking me a question beforehand because he had this really great idea. He wants to do it on stream because this is where we do this stuff, but doesn't know how a lot of these RPGs work, and I've interacted with a few more of them. So, mainly the question, right, is how does the mechanic of a game like this work? How is it not just like a motivational journal for yourself and a friend, right? How do you gamify it? And the answer almost always is through randomization, is by adding in that element. So I have an example. I have one in front of me here. I'm not gonna, actually, yeah, sure, I'll shout it out. It was a Kickstarter I did forever ago. This is Sanctuary and Sentinel. This is two of these sort of stacked one on top of the other. And I think it does a really good job of illustrating how this can work. So, on the first game, Sanctuary, we see a deck of cards is our playing device, which I know we are always kind of a fan of. And what you do is you draw a card and you set it down. And depending on what card you've drawn, it gives you a prompt about a map. about a map that you are slowly building as you build a sanctuary, either by yourself or with a few other people. So, for example, Spencer, just pick a card out of the deck.
King of Hearts. Michael, go ahead.
Here. I'm going to shut down my computer and come back on because the connection's all over the place. And maybe that fixes it.
Understood.
Be right back.
Okay.
For our viewers out there, our videos are going to look a little bad for a minute. Ethan's probably going to mess with them in the background.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so
so
just give me 2 seconds to fix that. So, for example, you just said, I'm just going to do like a real quick and nasty version of this without worrying. Actually, I think I may have just fixed it in about 5 seconds, and then we just have one messed up camera. Yeah, actually, so I'm just going to have to fix those again. So, there you go, little slapdash fix. So, basically what happens there, so King of Hearts, a place considered sacred. Is this place kept from most, or can anyone visit? What happened here for it to be deemed sacred? What makes the sanctuary's power vibrant here? Answer for the Guardians, what abilities, mundane or supernatural, do they have? So it gives you an opportunity to stop and go, okay, here's what you're answering. In the second half of the game, you are attempting to defend your sanctuary now that some time has passed, and you draw a card and then roll a d6. The card tells you the situation. If you roll a 1, you fail. If you roll a 2 through 6, you succeed. Every time you fail, the margin of failure increases. So you exponentially start to spiral as you lose control over the sanctuary. So it goes from failing on a 1 to failing on a 1 and a 2, etc., etc. What this, I think, illustrates really well for us is both sides need to be responding to random prompts so that it's a game, so that you're being forced into seeing how your character, would sort of respond to this changing situation rather than having something that is, too stable to kind of hold much in the way of tension. So that's going to be sort of our first game here, is to first come up with what the mechanic is and how it works, and then shortly thereafter to say, all right, and then how do you fail? How do you succeed? How do we make it a little bit more interesting to have to interact with what is going on? Because otherwise, right, one of our players is going to end up being the GM, and the other character is going to respond to the GM's prompts, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Yeah. So basically what we're going to end up with is 2 different lists of prompts attached to some mechanic, and then some kind of success-failure thing. Now, the real question is, with a lot of these journal writing RPGs, the fun of it is supposed to be that it is truly random. You can't really improve your chances of success. It's you responding to how your character would respond. So we don't need to worry too much about, like, what modifiers do we add? How would we change, XYZ component in the way that we do in one-page RPGs? I hope that's all making sense. I know this is a pretty dense episode you've tuned into. Thank you so much all the same. So let's start a little bit more simple. We have a couple of things we need to sort out here. Number 1, what's our mechanic? How are we generating, these prompts? And then number 2, what's our setting? What are these prompts in response to? I know you had kind of a loose idea for one of those. Is there one of them that we think we should start with?
So here's what I'm thinking in terms of keeping things fresh. Always, cards are great, and D6s are great as well, because everybody's got them who has literally a single board game in their house. We can kind of guarantee they've got D6s on hand. And if they don't, they can buy them for like $1.
And I do want to say, I think that specifically with a product like this, we don't need to shy away from, the 7 die that come with a standard, D&D
It's
set.
unlikely somebody's buying this and they don't have a D20. But either way, I think lists of 6 make sense. I think that the person in the past or present, depending on how we're viewing this, the person present day is responding to the prompt sent by the person in the future. They do the thing, they would roll on this to determine the outcome of the events, and the journaling aspect would be telling the story. So preferably this would be done by somebody who is sort of an aspiring novelist, at least a little bit, somebody who likes writing things out. It's true for the future self as well. When they get the response back, they understand the actual events that are occurring, they roll to see the ramifications of what that person did. Then they're telling the story back. I found that this went well, but this happened, or it blew up in our faces. You need to try something different. Try this. And they go back to this and that led to the past. The past gets a thing, on and on and on, back and forth, as they're trying to get to the bottom of a problem.
Great. So you see the player
so
in the
that makes
past as being the one that plays with D6. They're the one that is sort of doing things and succeeding or failing, and the player in the present, rather than having, sort of some D6 to interact with, instead they are drawing a card from a tarot deck, or maybe rolling some other common kind of household, that can offer them some aid and assistance. Okay, I think that's interesting. We're going to have to find some way to give more prompts than just did you succeed or fail to player number one, but I think we can get there. And I like the idea that our two players are doing different things mechanically, like literally the way they play the game is different. I think is pretty interesting. Okay, so mechanic wise, our character in the past, I just spelled past P-A-R-S-T. It's been a long day, guys. Parst. The player in the past. The player in the past is playing with Monopoly die. They have 2d6, and we can do a lot with 2d6, right? That can give you a random number between 2 and 12. It can give you the random number between 1 and 6. You can roll one die and then the other to get like mixed things, to get sort of like interacting with tables in different ways. So I think there's something valuable there. And then our other player is interacting with something else. Now we have the deck of playing cards. We have a tarot deck. Michael, did you have an idea?
I was going to say that card I think could be cool for the present player. They get to draw a card and have that relate to a table or something. You drew a heart of 10 of heart, and that is a really good effect. Leads to blank.
What I'm thinking is hearts would be relational. So I made an allusion to that before. Like, you did the thing we wanted, but our wife is gone. I woke up today and our wife is gone. So the relational issue is you can't have succeeded in the way that you did. Now you need to try something different and not succeed that way because our wife dies. If you do it that way, the butterfly effect goes terribly wrong. The other heart would be like an entire town is wiped out. A nation collapses because of the way you did this. It's relation issues. Then there's spade, which is like death. There's, whatever.
It's a little too late, but something I think would be interesting to maybe interact with, rather than this being somebody in the past and somebody in the future, it's kind of reading a little their ability to go back. And we keep implying, right, that the way they're saving the world isn't working. It'd be interesting if one of them is stuck in a time loop and the other one is them having escaped and is throwing back like, your last pass didn't work and this is why. Your last pass didn't work and this is why. Almost an identical concept, but it's just you kept using the word like the way you saved it isn't right. So you would need to do that again. Yeah. So just something it kind of clued me into. Okay, so we like this idea that with a deck of cards, we have either, and here's just a little pro tip. So we have two paths diverge in our yellowed wood here. So either this is 52 distinct prompts, a pretty titanic number, or it's King, Queen, Jack, Ace, and there are 16 prompts. So my next question, and I think this is actually going to help us to know what to interact with here. When is the game over? And how long do we want to play?
So this kind of goes into what I was saying before. And it goes into like dating your notes and stuff, like, or dating your letters. At some point, player one's going to catch up to player two's first notes.
If we set the future point 2 weeks in the future instead of like 20 years, that is funny. where there's an inevitable endpoint, because future you is not that far in the future. Interesting.
The other thing I was thinking, which is very similar, the sort of 2-week gap I think is pretty funny, but we keep implying like, that you're married in the future but not presently, that there's sort of a wider gap there. I was thinking maybe you receive a letter, maybe the player in the past receives a letter every 1d6 months. Like, that's not really how you would play, but the first thing you do is roll a d6. That is how long of a gap there is, and that would be a way for us to bridge, like, then we would maybe change the name to, like, past and post and present, sort of, and then attach some time to it. Is it 10 years? You were talking to yourself 10 years in the future, and we just watch you slowly move forward, getting closer and closer, running out of time to divert whatever this future catastrophe is. Or we skip that, and it's just the game is over when you draw the King of Clubs. The King of Clubs means everybody dies, or something.
I think... Okay, so let's talk state, fail state. Oh, we got a message from James Hurst.
Yeah, James said, so player 1 has a series of events, place conflict and stakes, and selects one using a deck of cards. That's a lot. And the player 2 rolls X's of D6s to act, react, or response. Yeah, that is sort of how we are visualizing it. Hopefully those D6 results, we are going to have to come up with a little table for those, because we want to make sure that player 2 isn't just like, all right, you succeeded, and they need to whole cloth come up with what happened every time. Whereas player 1 is like, you drew the ace of hearts. Something has cut through to the core of your... And like they get a nice juicy prompt they get to respond to. And then player 2 is like, I tripped. Fell down the stairs. Couldn't make it. So we do need to beef that up.
It'd be kind of fun if we had dice, but it's not like 1 through 6. It's like symbol dice.
We use the Edge of the Empire dice.
A game for people that have a defunct dice set from a game no one makes anymore. That would be pretty fun. All right, everybody, you got to get out your original Carcassonne pieces.
I assume everybody has them. No, I think that the post folk, the people in the past, what they are narrating is, and finding out, is how they made a difference. What things did they actually do to prevent it? So what they're writing out is, these are the steps I took. Did it work? It goes to the future. They say it did or did not work based on these things, and these are the problems.
James just said something very funny. The character in the future, I'm going to paraphrase here, the character in the future needs to speak in riddles to not break the timeline. They aren't allowed to say, go to the park across the street from blank, do this. They need to say, like,
go where the bird flies.
The Easter winds.
What?
I do like requiring some kind of veiling to the language. I think is pretty interesting. Okay,
that could be the first letter the person in the past gets. Is not written by the player. It's just like the prompt, and it says, "I'm sorry, I can't be more specific than I'm going to be with you. I'm giving you information. It's veiled. I need you to try your best to figure it out." And the person in the past is figuring it out. The person in the present is getting more information. The person in the present sends more information back to the person in the past, etc.
And the first letter should say, I remember this being a pain in the ass. Like,
yeah, I'm so sorry. If anybody gets it, it's me.
Yeah, I remember how annoying this was. Okay, so I think that's great.
That's
we
really
have
fun.
that loose mechanic nailed down, and I don't want to get too lost in it while we have other really foundational stuff. So for anybody who's just now tuning in, we're making a 2-person journal writing RPG a la 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. It is about a character in the present, in the past, and a character in the future communicating with each other through some sort of mystical, magical, or technological post. The character in the future is trying to divert a catastrophe by sending letters to their past self. The character in the past is going to be rolling d6s to determine what happens when they try to act on these orders, and whether or not they fail in changing things to be better or worse. And player number 2 is drawing cards to determine how the butterfly effect is sort of shattering the future. I already have some loose ideas about ways that I think that could change that would be pretty interesting, but I don't want to get too bogged down before we start thinking about other stuff. So
I need to bring up one thing. if we wanted to come up with a fail state, win state, and like I guess solid state, middle of the ground, middle of the road option, I could see the past player entering those every 6 months. This happens, this happens, this happens. If they get to the end and they haven't drawn the Joker, which is fail, the person from the past becomes the person in the present. The person in the present takes over the role of the person in the past, and you start again until you get the win state.
That's fun.
And that's how the game functions. Until you do it, you just keep swapping places. Or until you lose because the Joker gets drawn.
I'll quickly say it then. I was going to hold off. My other idea was if at any time you roll snake eyes or double sixes, if you roll snake eyes, it's the worst of all realities. The game is over. If you roll double sixes, it is the best timeline. The adventure is over. I thought it would be interesting. Like double ones is your past self dies, your future self never sends the first letter. Double sixes is it's the perfect timeline. Your future self sends one last letter that says, "Good job. I'll see you soon."
We've done it.
Winky face or whatever. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about setting. So these kinds of games really benefit from nailing down what exactly is going on, right? Because part of the fun is that you need to deal with this prompt. You are sort of thrown into it. Making this sort of neutral apocalyptic will, number one, just make it really hard to write 16 to 52 prompts. Like, that's just going to kind of suck if we're doing it that way, so we should probably avoid it. Did you have something in mind for sort of a background? Obviously, we need to have some terrible conflict that the person in the future is trying to avoid, and that the person in the past is capable of affecting. Right? So there's some stuff that's going to be pretty far outside the scope of that, like alien invasion, nuclear winter. Joe from Nantucket can't do much about that.
I was thinking, originally I was thinking AI catastrophe.
Sure.
Hot button topic, a lot of people on top of mind, and also fuck AI is my general stance. So it'd be fun for it to be like, AI is taking over and it's really, really bad. There's some changes that you can make. You are a software engineer in 2025 and you make a big mistake. You need to change these things. Or the mistake has been made, now you have to rectify it before it waterfalls it cascades out of your hands. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking that's one option. Option two, a portal to hell opens up. Uh-oh. Dragons fly forth from the mountaintop. Alien invasion, all those things. The fun thing about butterfly effects in that world are small changes can stop some stuff from happening.
I like that.
You just have to figure out what it is.
I like that one of the options is full, like, Doom 3 Chernobog. Like, you know, the rift opens, the seventh seal has come undone. What will you do to save these things?
I'm an accountant. What are you talking
That's
about?
the
like,
stakes
brother?
of this? Okay, so you either want it to be AI apocalypse or big capital A apocalypse that you are writing these letters back and forth to try to prevent. I think both are kind of equally good. I think they both make a lot of sense. I'm going to say, Spencer, this is sort of your thing. Get out a die. Who's odds, who's evens?
I think that AI is evens.
Okay.
A 6. It's AI.
A 6. All right, so we have some kind of AI apocalypse, and that is the backdrop of what you are interacting with. Okay, cool. So that gives us a little bit more detail on what exactly is happening. We have these two characters speaking to each other through time, trying to stop this apocalypse from ever coming to be. So we can start to kind of connect the two things now. We have hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades. One of the things I was thinking of, although we don't have to do it, it'd be fun if when the player in the past rolls a good result, you pull from one pair of suits, and when they roll poorly, you pull from the other. So if they make things better, you pull from hearts and spades.
The hearts and diamonds.
Okay, yeah, sure. I was wanting to maybe mix them just for the fun, because I was maybe diamond, spades, hearts, clubs, or we could do hearts, diamonds, spades, clubs. When things get better, the future player pulls one of X group of cards. When things get worse, they pull from Y. Just to add a little variety. That way it's not too the same as they're making their way through. My bigger question is, how do we add what is the process like for our person in the past when they're rolling these dice? I think they should roll for if they succeed or fail. Or for what the result is, right? No matter what, it seems like they'll succeed to some degree, but what's the result? Like, how does it change things? How do they roll to determine what they need to do, like how they're going to interact with it? Because I want them to get at least some little lift of what they should do next. Or does that all come from the future person?
I think that comes from the future person. The future person gets the results of what changed. They're doing their detective work in the present and the future. So they find out what actually happened from the results of the last roll. And they then prompt with, this was the negative ramification or the positive effect. There's still more work to do, or we need to redo all that shit. This was terrible. Send it back. The person in the past then gets that result and then has to figure out a way to interact with the next issue. It's really freewheeling right now for the person in the past. Michael, what's up?
There's something we could do to give the past a little bit more. It would actually make it more like a 50-50 if we do it right. Every other correspondence from the future could be the first one is like what happened, what was wrong, try this. It could be, this is what I did in the past, do not do this. And then the person in the past tries something new and they explain what they do new.
Sure.
The problem is still
what I'm really
randomization.
Yeah, what I'm really just trying to get to, I think I understand what you two are going for there. The person in the past, I don't want them to just get, my wife disappeared, and then they roll 2d6 and see, all right, I succeed at whatever I do, and then they just need to whole cloth go, how do I change the future so that my wife doesn't disappear? I think that sucks for the person in the past.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to solve is, how with 2d6 do we randomly generate some pearl of what they need to do to respond to the person in the future, right? So let me get out your stuff.
I'll
Everybody,
open while you're pulling that. I don't think that the person in the past learns if they succeeded or failed during the die rolling process. They have affected change. No matter what happens, they've changed something. They send it to the future, and the future finds out whether they succeeded or failed. The person in the past won't know until they get the response back about the effects that they've made. So that's just one thing that I wanted to clarify on for the past player.
I'll be perfectly honest. I just kind of disagree. I just think it would be more fun to sort of kick forward to be able to prompt that person with whether it was successful or unsuccessful. If you would rather not do that and it's just up to the draw of the card, that's fine. In that case, we should just take out the success failure roll. It doesn't do anything anymore. Like it no longer has a function. So now it would just be the person in the past rolls to see what they have to do. The person in the future rolls to see what effect it has. And then we just need to decide a different end for the game. Because otherwise, somebody rolls to see if they succeed or fail, and then nothing happens related to that dice roll. It's just so that we can say there is an end state for the game, and that is not in.
Yeah.
So, do we really like the idea that you are dealing... So would we rather deal with the butterfly effect, or would we rather deal with trying to find the path? I'm fine with either. I think they're both fun ideas. We just gotta pick one.
Yeah.
New thing. We don't use dice. We use a Jenga tower. The Jenga tower stays up for the entirety.
For weeks. For weeks
and they
you
pull.
get a Jenga tower.
If they fail whole, it's a fail.
What I love about that is we could add a
roll.
roll where it's like, if the Jenga tower is knocked over randomly between letters, you were hit by a bus and the adventure is over.
Right.
Like, it is random chance came a knocking. Yeah, so the real question right now is, do we like the idea of you trying to find a path to success? Or do we like the idea of you trying to change the future? right? Because those are different. If you're just trying to get success, then it's pass-fail, and we should put in some mechanic where we find out if you succeeded. And someday that will probably be how we tell that the game is over. If you are just trying to change the future, then I would say it would just be drawing the cards and rolling the dice, and that prompts both players, and you're done when you like the ending. You're done when the two of you can agree, like, I think this is good. I think we stop writing letters. Because from then on, and I think that's kind of, it's a little bit more emotional, a little bit more dramatic in a way that I enjoy. I like the idea that your future self in that world is like, I can never talk to you again. Everything's great. If I send another letter, who knows what you'll change? And so this is me saying goodbye. Goodbye. I'll see you in the future. And that's it.
The goodbye is silent. You never receive a message back is crazy.
And that's how you know, you hope that means things went well.
And they didn't just die.
So in that case,
In
it
the
basically
future.
means player 2, it is up to you when the game is over.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you. It's fully up to you. And then, you should probably do something where it's like, send one last letter where you tell them, what, or no, it would be your final entry. The two of you should like write together, and it's the day the two timelines meet.
That's fun.
Certainly more journaling, less of a game, but I don't really care. Is there one of those two that we like better?
The only other one that I could pitch is, instead of the dice rolling have a succeed-fail mechanic, the succeed-fail mechanic is, after 6 back and forths, if you haven't resolved the problem, you add in a joker to your hand, and then if you draw the joker, you fail because one of you dies. That's another way to fail state instead of getting to the positive end game. But I like the more poetic, artistic version, I think, that you pitched, where it's you
at some
communicate
point
until you think you've done it.
At some point, player 2 draws a card, writes out what happened, and is like, this is good. Like, this is good. This is progress. This is things better. And the worst part is, I think we should keep in the Joker mechanic as a flair. As like, hey, you can't do it forever. You can't just keep spamming it until you get the perfect roll, because the worst of all realities is coming. Right? There is the option to pull the Joker, and that is, you have waited too long, you sought too much perfection, you lose everything.
That's really, like, 5 rounds in, 5 back and forths. You add the Joker in, you've got a 1 in 6 chance. We're playing Russian roulette right now. You might unravel the fabric of reality. Everything falls apart. That is super cool.
Okay.
The gray goo infects the universe. You're done.
So number 1, 52 or 16 is my next big question. So we'll go with that. We're going to just ditch the success-failure mechanic, and these dice only exist to generate what the person in the past has to do, and then they respond to that prompt. That's great. So that gives them numbers 2 through 12, so that gives them 11 different options. So I think we can cut 52. I don't think we can have 11 and 52
16.
prompts. Doesn't make a lot of sense. 11 and 16 are close enough to each other that I think that they are pretty interesting. Or we could pare down even further, couldn't we? So right now it's King, Queen, Jack, Ace, which is 16. We could go down to King, Queen, Jack, which would be 12. Which is 12 and 11.
And then 13 is the Joker. Pretty fun, just thematically speaking.
Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to just sort of sit here and sort through this deck of cards that I have sitting in front of me. I think I should be able to do this pretty quickly. So one of the ideas that we talked about that we didn't really ever square up on whether or not we wanted to do it was the... Oh, goodness gracious. It's left me. I tried to talk while shuffling through a deck of cards, and what everybody knew would happen, happened.
Something we hadn't settled on that we were considering previously
Let's just move.
Well,
Oh yeah,
let's-
do the suits have connotations? Are hearts and diamonds
I think
good
yes.
and clubs and spades bad? What are the ones that are bad? My problem is, there's just nothing particularly positive about a diamond to me. I don't know. It's funny. I like, for some reason, hearts and spades to me feel like the good options, and diamonds and clubs feel like the bad,
Really?
because I don't know, they just do. We could go the other way though. I think both would make pretty perfect sense.
I was thinking hearts and diamonds. Hearts is relational, diamonds is monetary, essentially. You've gotten to a better spot in life, in your career, etc. But the spades makes me think of burying people. That's why it's sort of a negative connotation for me. It's a shovel.
Oh, that's fine.
So that's always how I've viewed it. But
Oh, there they are.
yeah,
I
I
was
think
looking
that
for my jokers.
let's open with they have specific connotations. And if we feel like we kind of get tapped out, we can change it. It's just a good jumping off point.
Now, a deck does come with 2 jokers. So that's something we might want to interact with. Either, I'm thinking maybe you put one in at round 5 and a second one in at round 10. Just to really be like, hey man, get off the pot.
you
Pick one of
gotta
these futures. I think is pretty fun. All right, so for those of you just tuning in, I say this all the time. It helps us and it helps people that are just grabbing on. We're trying to come up with an idea here for a journal writing RPG for 2 characters who are writing letters either in the mail or over email to each other. Just sort of a fun game to play with one of your friends. In this game, as we currently have it designed, you are trying to stop some kind of AI Terminator-esque apocalypse. The player in the future is drawing a deck from a card from a much reduced deck that is the king, queen, and jack of each of the suits. And the other player is rolling 2d6 to determine what they need to do to affect the future. The player in the past rolls 2d6. I just got a 4. That tells us something about what they need to do. And then the player in the future needs to draws a card to determine how it changed their future.
Butterfly effect, baby.
They write back and forth, and what they're trying to do is player number 2, the player in the future, needs to pick a reality. They need to pick one of these ways that their world has changed that they like. After 5 rounds, you shuffle in a joker as a threat. If the player in the future cannot make up their mind and pick a reality, then they run the risk of the worst of all realities coming to be. If you draw the Joker, the game is over. Tell me the worst of all realities. If you don't, and you end up picking one, then you will just stop. In theory, correspondence will just suddenly cease between the two of you, and you will wonder until you are you in the future, and then you'll write one last sort of journal of some kind to talk about what that future looks like. I think that's pretty solid. All right, great. So 8:16, we're doing very good on time here. We're going until 9, correct?
9.
Fantastic. So that gives us...
You got something?
Yeah, I'm thinking. You said next question, 52 or I don't remember the number.
It was
16?
We
16,
pared
and
down
then we
to
dropped it down to 12.
We pared down to 12. Yeah.
12. Okay, 12. I like the smaller number. I was thinking of a way to give a chart for the dice rolling too. Do you have prompts? I thought we could have it. It's the same premise of symbols, but not quite. Your blips are your symbols, and it would come out to 21 prompts. One on your chart, it's 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 1 5 1 6 2 2 2 3 2 4 2 5 2 6. And it's down the line. Whatever you roll, that's your prompt for what you have to do.
Actually, we should do it that way because 2d6 doesn't give you 12 random numbers. It gives you like 38, most of which are 7. So you're going to roll 7 like 9 times. So it's going to be... So there you go, Michael. It's roll 2d6 the way that you roll percentile die in D&D. One of them is the tens place. One of them is the ones place. That was a good catch. We would have made a really fundamentally broken game. Because, right, statistically, you roll 2d6, you're going to roll a 3 and a 4. You're going to roll a 7. Way more than you're going to roll a 12 or a 2. Which means most of the time you're going to be like, all right, I have to kill someone again.
I go to the library.
Whatever. Like, oh, I need to sabotage something again. All right, cool. Good catch.
Yeah. So it's 22 prompts, which is a lot, but you're not going through all 22 of them.
12 prompts.
12 prompts.
1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 1 5 1 6. Oh, 2. Yeah.
2 2 2 3 2 4 2 5 2 6.
All right. Well, then we
3
need
3 3 4 3 5.
Okay,
3,
you.
6.
And I do think that's okay.
I banned the counting.
Because I think that that's okay because the way you go about changing the future is so massively wide-reaching that some of the things can be just like, you didn't go out that day. The day that changes everything, you just didn't go outside. That's an easy prompt.
Yeah, and I think for the person writing it, you can give a description of like why you chose to do that then, and then the person in the future can explain what happened why it happened because you did that.
So,
Yeah.
it's a personal choice. So 21 is great. If we introduce the aces and the tens, we go from 12 to 20, and we are only one away. So
I think that's fine.
simple choice. Would we rather the two numbers be very close? I know you just said like, well, that wouldn't be that bad because it would kind of make sense. Did you say that if we were saying that to try to be like, it's fine, then we can sort of go either way. We can either stick it at 12, we can up it to 16, or we can go all the way to 20.
I think 12 works because I don't think we want the communication to have more than 12 attempts. Things will get stale. So adding in the Joker at, 10 or 6, it makes it so we've set an upper limit of attempts you can make. But I don't want the past player to feel like they're constantly doing the same thing. With that being said, I do think that the past player should cross off the options that are pipped as 1-6. If they get 1-6, they cross it off. If they roll 1-6 again, they can either re-roll it or they do the one above it and then they cross that one off. And then if they roll 1-4, they do 1-4. They do 1-5 again, then they're doing 1-3. Do you know what I'm getting at there?
Pick the closest number to.
Pick the closest number to the roll that you haven't already done. And that gives them a lot of options to mess around, but a finite game session. So eventually it will be wiped out. They'll have more options than the game will let them play.
James brought up an interesting alternate end to the game, one that would make me reintroduce the tens and want there to be 20 cards, which is that we keep in all 4 aces, and anytime you draw an ace, you roll your 2d6, and if you get double ones or double sixes, you win. Like, you succeed in the future.
It worked. It does make sense for there to be... It removes the urge to have a decision being made, though, and that's the problem for me. I like the mechanic, but I think the roleplay element will be hurt by adding in a gameplay mechanic. The roleplay element being like, we've gotten it as good as I trust, we're done. Goes away if there's a chance we can actually win it.
Interesting.
Do you agree or do you disagree?
No, I agree. I think it's interesting. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just, it would be very interesting to design both versions. That's all.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, if we could have multiple designs for this game, hell yeah.
It's also just a good alternate way to program in an end to the game. Is just when the last ace has been drawn, the game is over. Would be kind of interesting. Keep all 4 aces in, and the aces just change the world in big ways as opposed to small. All right, so we're a little uncertain on that, and some of this stuff we always iron out after we're kind of done. So let's get to work on kind of what is clearly next. We have 2 characters here, and each of them we have a way to kind of sort what type of event is going on, and I think that's really fun. So number 1, we have hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades as our first there. So let's spend just a little bit of time deciding what each of those means for the player in the future, right? What does it mean for them to draw each of these? So Spencer said that hearts already affect your relationships in some way. So I think that's very funny. Like, I think when you draw a heart card, the world is doing well. It has cost you dearly. And so I think heart is the card of like self-sacrifice. You draw a card with a heart on it, and it's you have been cost something dear, but the world is doing better.
I can counter here. It might be better to mix the hands, so it's still like relational, but there's positive and negative relational when you get the heart. Two of them are good, two of them are bad. So you never know when you draw that heart if it's going to be a good one until you play it and you read the prompt outcome. If you could draw a spade, two of them are good, two of them are bad, etc. Michael, what's up?
I'm thinking about it changes the game a little bit. It goes more for having 20 cards instead of 12 or 16 or 10. Draw cards. First card is first card affects you. Second card affects the greater world. So it can be like you're sacrificing a relationship to make something better in the world, like the financial state of the world better, or reverse it, the financial state of the world or financial state of you's better, or worse, and the relationships of the world is different.
So 2 deck.
It's all just mishmash.
Your signal is still pretty cursed. All right, so
I'm sorry.
let's think a little bit about what that would look like. So I think that could work. It gets us with 2 pretty sparse decks is my only problem. So we end up with 2 decks of 6, right? If we have red cards affect you and black cards affect the world, that would be fine. In that case, we absolutely have to put the 10s and the aces back in the deck. We got to make it 8 and 8 because 6 and 6 is way too few. It also brings our number of rounds down to 8 from 20. It like hugely reduces our number of rounds that we'll play if you're drawing 2 cards every time.
If we combine both decks and have 20, and it's just card, second card, first card, sell, second card, other, and not do red, black.
Yeah, so then one of our characters is pulling from 40 options, and the other is only pulling from 20, and so that's a little bit of a... No, it is. So, Michael, you got to think page count with me. So... Right? Player 1 has 20 variables. Player 2 has 40. They have 20 and then 20
Why do
again.
they have 40?
Because if you draw
I don't
2
get where you
cards...
get 20.
Okay, let me explain. If you are drawing 2 cards to determine what is affecting you versus what affecting the world, then we need to write 40 total prompts. 20, one for each card that affects the world, and 20 more, each of which affects the individual, for 40 in total, making it twice as many. That's all. So we would just need to increase the number of dice that mechanize in some way.
Again, hard to save someone but incur a personal cost, moral dilemma. Diamonds, your resources change and out into the gameplay. Violence, kill, sabotage, destroy. Spades, nick of time, or just missed it. Which, kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, if we flipped, certainly that would be kind of the strat, right? If the person in the past was drawing the card, then I think that James would be like right on the money there. We've kind of flip-flopped on that a little bit, so I think that I'm not surprised.
The easiest solution we have. Some of the cards affect the world, some of the cards affect you. It just depends on the prompt we write out.
Yeah.
The King of Spades affects the world, but the Queen of Spades affects you by happenstance. And some of them are positive, some of them are negative, and it just depends on what you end up drawing.
I think our other... Yeah, so very much in the same vein, I think my version, the take on the like 20 cards twice thing, is I think each card just has 2 lines. It just has line 1 affects the world, line 2 affects you. And it's each card, so the Jack of Spades. And we could just decide which ones are good and which ones are bad, right? King, Queen, Jack. Which one's good, which one's bad. We have kind of a perfect porridge there, right? King is great, Queen is mixed, Jack is bad. We can just sort of, play it that way without too much influence in either direction. So hearts affects relationships. What do diamonds, do we like the idea that diamonds affect either resources or value or money in some way? An AI apocalypse doesn't make me super concerned about the bottom line of your, like, you know, enterprise company or whatever.
I think it's resources, so it could be, if it negatively affects the AI conglomerate, it's that it hasn't totally taken over a section of the world. Or it affects you, and it's your resistance group is flourishing. You're surviving well. Instead of being like, I've got more money. It's like the resources are either positive or negative for us, or positive or negative for the opponent. Is sort of where that would fall out for Diamond, in my mind.
Sure. I think that also puts us in a nice, comfortable, like, that means on average, this game is probably going to go for 4 or 5 back and forths. It's pretty rarely going to go further than that, right? Because every time person 2 draws one of the king cards, they're most likely going to, that is a great moment for them to really consider stopping and sort of saying, like, all right, you know, that's what I've got. It actually has me thinking we might end up, I think, reintroducing the aces to give a little bit more variety, because as of now, again, this is sort of the issue of being 12 up against 21 options, is player 2, who is the one that ends the game, is so much more likely to end the game early, because they're like, there's only 4 kings. The second I get my first one, I should just take it. That's the good ending, right? Whereas if we add back in the aces and the 10s, their odds of drawing a king go down kind of exponentially.
Now, I'm going to reintroduce a mechanic that we tossed out. If we have a pass-fail mechanic for the person in the past, it could be that in your message back, you're saying, I did the thing that I needed to do. It has negatively affected me in the present in a way that I cannot allow. Please don't end the round on this. I know the future, it's going to be better. Right now, I can't allow this. Please don't do it. It's like, it's a thing that I've thought about when I watch, like, Groundhog's Day, where it's like, what if Bill Murray committed a crime and then the Groundhog's Day stopped Groundhog Daying him? And now he's stuck in a reality where shit's really terrible for him and he's in prison. Just by sheer luck, the Groundhog's Day stopped. In the past, it's like, I assassinated that man, and it made things better for you, maybe. I don't care. You need to free me from this. Don't end the game. They draw the king, things are great in the future, and then they go, I don't want to screw myself in the ass for the next game.
Okay, so I agree with the concept that you're saying. We're going to get real squirrely here, so everybody strap in.
We got some time stuff.
Yeah, so you've described something that is mechanically impossible, right? So if the person in the past, so let's really break this down. The person in the future writes a letter. They say, this is how you have changed the world. I don't think it's right yet. I think we can do better. Please do something else. Here's some things that I've learned. You say, great, you roll 2 dice, and you take the things you've learned, and then the prompt that you just got, and you put them together, and that's how you write your chapter. Mm-hmm. If you kill some very important person...
You kill a guy.
And then the person in the future draws the king, you are implying that there is some reality where future you has no repercussions and is happy, but past you is dealing with all of the repercussions. Those two things cannot coexist. If past you is dealing with horrible repercussions, future you is dealing with those repercussions. So I think it's a cool idea. Then it needs to be 2 different people, and I think it changes the game a little bit too much.
And that doesn't work. What I'm thinking is there's 10 or 20 or however long we want to say. We could say it's 20 years in the future. The present day you is suffering, and future you suffered that time as well, but they could choose and say, this is actually worth it for me. Your motivations do shift over that time period. If you say, I don't want to be in jail for 15 years for the future to be better, we can try again, and I don't need to be in jail for 15 years for it to work. That's the pass-fail state in my mind. It's like, things are bad. I know that in the future it might be better, but right now I'm going to face repercussions. You're facing repercussions in the past because I am you. But it would be nice if we didn't have to do this. Yeah, that's all I was saying. I was trying to think of a past
just why reintroduce it. That's all. My only question is just like, why? Like, why add it? It's like a pretty big complicating factor, and it puts a lot of weight on the second person to like wing the second thing when we already had an end game mechanic. So just talk to me about like what is inspiring you to want a little bit more variety in there.
The reason right now that I wanted to come up with that mechanic is the future person can just say 3 times in, good enough, it's over. And it feels more flippant than if the person in the past is sending a message saying, I actually really don't want you to stop on this one. It adds more weight to the decision to be like, and we're done. If there is a problem in the past.
It gives agency. It's kind of what you're going for. It feels
a bit more
like.
agency for the person in the past to be like, I know that this might be better for you. It's a problem for me right now.
Yeah, I think the mechanic we can give that is like player 1 gets 1 veto.
That's so funny. No, but then it doesn't. It's fine to get rid of it. I was just trying to come up with a way for it not to just be one player's decision.
It's just, so I think I don't think we need to add another roll. I think what you're describing is what happens when you roll 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 1 5 1 and 6 1. What you do, because we've decided there is no, if we don't want there to be a pass-fail mechanic, and we just came up with a bunch of reasons why we shouldn't have a pass-fail mechanic. If you roll a 1-1 through a 6-1, so if you get a 1 on the second die, then whatever you did works, and it's horrible. Like, it sucks for you.
Yeah.
Now, I will say the other problem is this has not been so are we in a time loop now? Right?
How do you
I
mean?
don't think so.
So this is what I was trying to bring up earlier. Maybe I didn't explain myself well. Like, you already did the thing. You already did 1-1.
Oh, yeah.
It's done. Future guy, it doesn't matter what future guy writes down. You did 1-1. Yeah. Now, if we've decided to change the game to you're writing into a Groundhog's Day, I think that's all right. That's fine with me. But, like, 1-1 already happened. You already did it. You already killed the important person. You're already in jail for 15
Tuesday,
years.
It's not Monday. Yeah, I see what you mean. True. No, I agree. I think that is... I don't want it to be a time loop.
I think I think a pretty good in-between then. If we want there to be a little bit more agency in both departments, let's talk through and focus in on that. We're doing okay on time still, and it's good. We've identified a problem with the game, a little bit of crosstalk here and there, but that's all right. That's what these streams are all about. So we want the player in the past to have a little bit more agency over when the game ends. I think so. I'm going to give my personal 2 bits here. It's a strong thematic choice to leave it entirely up to the second player, and I like that. I think player 1's agency does matter less. That to me is one of the draws of the game. It is not perfectly balanced. Player 1 has to hope that player 2 and them have the same goals, much in the way that, has anybody ever made a decision when they were 18, like going to college for a stupid degree that now future you is dealing with the consequences of, and you're like, wow, what a jerk I was. I think this is just that. Now, if we wanted to change it, if we wanted to interact with it in some way, then we would just give, like Michael said, player 1 would get a veto where we would say, you receive no letter today. Player 1 can go, I start changing stuff. What? I do all kinds of stuff until I get another letter. You want to mess with me? You think you get to pick when it's over? No, brother. No. I pick when it's over. And the next day you say, I change a bunch of stuff anyways. I do a bunch. I like hand packets of secret information to people.
Insane.
And like, I do whatever. And then player 2 has to draw another card and decide whether or not they write another letter. We can do that. I want to be clear. I think that makes the game weaker, not stronger. I think the fun is it's player 2's call.
I have a counter. And it makes it both of their call, and it keeps it fairly interesting. Player 1 is getting journals from player 2. The player in the future is sending the journals about, like, these are the things that's happened. Player 1 is also finding out what happened. Player 1 might decide, that's good enough for me. I get the next letter, I burn it, and I live my life how I'm going to live it. And then I'm on track. I've done the thing. it doesn't matter what happens after this. Player 2 might want to keep going because they're like, oh, but there's a reality where I get all these things and my wife survives, my husband survives. But player 1 goes, I don't know that person, and we've got it good enough. If we keep messing with time, it's going to burn everything down.
Sure.
Both of them have the option to end when they think that the future is good enough. And
Okay.
the other person is stuck living with it.
Yeah, so I like that. I think that might be kind of fun. What it gives us is there's an end step where you reveal whether or not you lied. Because player 2 could have the entire world saved, but their wife is gone, and lie. They could write whatever letter they want. They could write, the entire world is oh no, everything's gone. It's a barren wasteland, and they're just lying. So if you want to introduce that, we can add this like deceptive element. And then at the end of the game, it's, hey, fess up about what happened at each step. When did you lie? When did you tell the truth?
That's fun because you would write concurrent journals. You'd date them the same way, you'd title them the same way, and then you'd send the real journals to that person, and they would go side by side and see the differences in the truth. That is so fun. That is really cool.
Okay, so I think we can do it that way. All right, cool. So now we do have this sort of mixed end state. The player in the future can lie, the player in the past can lie. But I do want to be clear. So the end state is a little bit more... Michael, if you complicate this again, I'm going to hang up the call. We're ending the stream. So player 1 and player 2 are talking back and forth through time. And at any point, they can try to end things by not responding. Now, I do have to say... No, I think that's fine. There is something a little weird there. I happily cede to my other two players. I still think it would be a little better if player 2 was the one pulling the throttle, but I'm happy to cede that ground, and I have clearly lost it. Michael, what is it?
So I don't think player 1 can lie because player 2's already lived it.
No, player 2 would be the one lying about what happened in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, player 1...
We're just saying both can lie. I don't think
player 1 can
one
lie
can't
about
lie
what they're
because
going to
stop.
do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Player 1 can receive a... It doesn't... I think you're getting a little too bogged down in the details here. Player 1 can receive a message that says, go do this thing. And player 1 can go, no. And do whatever they want.
Doesn't say no.
So let me say, both players can be deceptive or antagonistic to the other.
Yeah, really, that's player 1's strength. Past, they can be a huge asshole to player 2 is like, I'll just lie.
And also,
tell them
I would throw a huge question back at you, Michael. 10 years ago, what did you do on Thursday?
I don't know.
What were you doing on Thursday in 2015? Yeah, future you is trying to remember something they did while arguing with themselves 10 years ago through journals. They don't. You can totally lie to your future self if you want to and like be deceptive about what you did and about what happened. It was 10 years ago. You can say whatever.
That would be solved with a flavor page at the beginning. Your memory is not infallible. You can lie to future you and you won't recall exactly what you did and what you changed differently.
Okay, so we like this idea that you can lie. The player in the future tries to end the game in a way that is like, very happy for them. Player 2 is trying to end the game in a way that they think is good and safe, right? They might be willing to say, like, I don't care if some future version... In their head, they're like, I just won't talk to that girl. He said his wife is gone. I'll just never talk to her. Now, obviously, that's probably not really possible, right? They're going to spend their entire life not talking to people they think they should be in love with, and then they're finally going to be like, well, I've been doing that for 3 years. This relationship obviously isn't the same one, and then it's the same one, and something terrible happens, and, whatever. Yeah. But that's just a consequence of the game. So now we finally return to if hearts is relationships and diamonds is resources, what does clubs and spades relate to? James put up clubs relating to violence in some way. If heart is your future relationships have been profoundly affected, and diamond is the resources of the future have been profoundly affected, clubs being like your bodily safety. Like violence has been visited on you.
Mm-hmm. There's that, and this could also be. It could be
Also the world.
personally, and it could be on the world. Yeah, clubs a la war, weapons of war. This nation collapses. This terrible thing occurs.
So
in
the
the world.
AI has Terminator now.
Yeah, we got killer robots these days.
if heart is relationships, diamonds is resources, clubs is violence, then spades is...
Spade.
Spade.
So we talked about a
Spade would
spade
be-
making us think of burying and digging. We talked about... That makes me think of, trenches, safe places, right? The thought that you're going to, like, dig out somewhere to hide. It makes me think of digging out to hide something, right? You dig a hole, you toss something in it, you fill it back up, is the other thing that the spade makes me think of. We have relationships, resources, violence. What did dear James chime in? James suggested spades as being kind of luck, like time, because it looks like, probably because it looks sort of like the end of the hand of a clock. If you look like old-fashioned clocks, they have that sort of structure and shape to them.
I see it as like disasters. Both like trying to help a disaster and disasters happening.
I could see with the burying and hiding thing, if the spade cards were almost like a wild card, you can use this to protect one thing. It's like you draw the spade,
Sure.
and you get to keep your wife safe in the realities that you might encounter. That's something that is safe and squared away. Does that work at all?
It's less of a journal prompt game in that case, and a little bit
Yeah,
more
that
mechanical
becomes more
in a way that,
gamey.
like, so what do you write that week? That's it. Like, if you get, if the King of Spades makes it so that in all realities, no matter what, your wife is safe, what the hell happened?
That's crazy.
Did an angel descend from the heavens and bless her with eternal life
good.
across timelines? Like, what are you talking about? I think that's a little. I think it's just a little. I'm not sure how it fits in to the rest of sort
It
of. what
breaks
we've talked
vibe, yeah.
Here, I was like, what was James' response?
Nick of
Time.
Time or just missed it, relating to time because it looks sort of like the hand of a clock.
Okay.
I think we're getting a little too bogged down in like what's the shape of a spade.
Yeah.
Hearts, relationships, diamonds, resources, clubs, violence. So the King of Hearts, right, would be your relationships are perfectly safe, probably at some expense to the world, right? There is some downside. There needs to be a downside to all of these, otherwise this game's too easy. The King of Diamonds, resources, is the world is doing awesome. Like,
Utopian
you
style.
really figured it out. You're not. Like, in some way you are hollow in the way that, money doesn't buy happiness kind of deal, right? That is clearly the theme there. The King of Clubs is the world's safe, you're safe at horrific cost. Right? The wage for that was paid in blood. It was hard won. What do we feel like is like? What is the fourth option there that you would get from the King of Spades? One of the ones that I don't see here is you got away. You got onto a ship with other people and you are free, but like you aren't where you are. Like you had to abandon. My first thought for the King of Spades is we got off the planet. We're on the
we flew off.
moon. Like we have abandoned that. It is over. The other thing
That's
I could
fun.
see being for spades, because it is sort of this fourth option, spades could represent compromise. If relationships and resources to me seem diametrically opposed, right? Relationships and money always fight. What is the opposite of violence? Cooperation. So the King of Spades is, we have succeeded. We are now forced to, like, diplomat and work with the AI that has taken over the planet. Like, we have found peace. Peace means we still need to live alongside this thing that tried to enslave or kill or whatever us. And that makes people uncomfortable, including me. That would be my inclination, is that spades is
It'd be
like...
a set of compromises.
And that's just because it's
Where
the...
10 is bad.
And it's the opposite of violence. What do we think of that?
I think that works better. I think that's the best one that we found, definitely.
And it sets up a paradigm where our red suits and black suits are opposed to one another: hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades, and also we get kind of simultaneous matches in hearts and clubs, relationships and violence, and diamonds and spades, resources and diplomacy. We kind of get the two different approaches, two different ways. All right, great. So we got 13 minutes left. We're doing pretty good on time. We settled after only a minor bout of fisticuffs how we want the game to work and who can end it, ending with the choice that you can lie to each other or be deceitful or in some way antagonistic. So now my question is, what are the 6 categories for our dice roller? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do those represent? Do they represent like how dangerous it is to you personally? Do they represent like how easy they are to do? Are all the 6 ones like stay home today? Don't go outside no matter what happens. Like you'll hear about exciting stuff. Stay home. Doesn't matter. One is I need you to get on a plane to Prague. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's my first inclination. It's a little bit on the nose, but I like it as a basic idea. My second one is we pick 6 categories. One of them is, action. Another one is, you need to go somewhere and do something. Another one is sabotage. You need to stop something from working. The third one is persuasion. You need to grab someone on the street and explain why they can't go to work today.
I think 1 is funnier. 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. You got a little glitchy there. Give it just half a second to stabilize, and let's see how that works out.
Bet.
Your guys' signal over there is tough.
There's probably something in.
So the thought of the 1 through 6, I think, is much funnier. So 6 super.
So
super
6
hard.
is just super easy.
And then we can throw a bunch of random stuff in.
Okay.
So the first die is
Oh, wow.
What's the second die?
The second die...
How it works, or...
The second die is going to take us just a lot more work. The second die is mostly just deciding a series of options, right? So what are the 6 hardest options would be my question. So to me, right, 1-1 is... you need to hunt someone down. That is both morally hard and logistically hard. Like, what do you mean I have to hunt someone down? I have to, like, go to a city. I have to find this person. I need to find out their schedule. I need to track them down. And then I need to kill a guy. Like, that sucks. That's going to be awful.
It's awful.
And 6-6 is...
this way.
Stay home. Is, go to bed today, stay at home, watch movies, do whatever, and then you just talk about how you managed to not do that, right? Like, as silly as it might be, I think that one might be kind of fun to write about your character, like, sitting there tapping their foot. And of course, one of the rules at the beginning of the book is, like, don't make it boring. On the day 6, you get 6-6 on people's birthdays.
Yeah.
You get 6-6 on the day of the music festival, on the day you finally got Taylor Swift concerts tickets, right?
It's your anniversary.
Yeah, 6-6 is always kind of a nightmare. You're like, great, now I need to find...
It's your dad's funeral.
You're
Okay.
like, oh my god. Yeah.
Funeral.
Yeah, you missed 6-6 it's the easiest task you can imagine. You just have to stay home. Prompt, tell us what you missed. What happened today that you could not see because you were trying to help yourself in the future? And I think it gives you a fun opportunity to be like, I say that I don't go, but I go. And that means like, and that can just sort of fold something down the line a little bit as you kind of progress.
If we do it this way, it's 36 prompts, right?
I don't know, man. I think we should figure out the numbers probably in a different time. Yeah, 6 times 6 is 32. So it would be 32 prompts in total, which is why I continue to think off book we're going to say, yeah, we need the aces and the tens for the guy in the future. I think we're going to end up shuffling those back in just so that it's a little bit more interesting. Otherwise, we're going to get really bogged down in like one person having 70 options and the other person having way less. We want replayability, right? We want you and your friends to get to play this game a couple times and kind of interact with the way that things change. If there's too few options, If it's only 12, you're gonna play like what, twice? If we're averaging 5 or
I
6
think-
polls, then you're gonna figure it all out in maybe 2 or 3 runs.
I think if... Yeah, and we're sort of spreading it out by not introducing the jokers until later on. So it gives you the reach to get a lot of them. You're never going to get all of them in one go. You don't want to. Because you're spending $10 on this game, you want a little bit more replayability than that. So I think that makes sense.
And it also
I think
lets
a
us...
good amount of options is great.
It also lets us play with aces and tens as our high and low card, which I think is a little bit more incentive than king and jack. And it gives us a better spread, right? Right now our options are only things are mostly good, kind of good and bad, or absolutely horrible. I think having that sort of like 5-star rating incentivizes both players to be like, we can do better than the king of diamonds. It's like, we're gonna get an ace this next round.
Ace.
You know we're gonna get an ace this next round. And like keep kind of stressing out trying to get a better result.
And because we are not... this is a question that I've sort of been wondering a little bit.
Sure.
In the future, each reattempt... is the future you stuck on June 1st, 2046? No matter what happens, and then June 1st, 2046 rolls around, you look around, it's like, oh, we're on the moon. And then June 1st, 2046 rolls around the next time, and it's like, oh, we're here, but my wife is dead.
I think
or
it's...
do they compound?
I think it compounds and things keep changing and morphing and shifting. That way you both get to move forward in time.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it a little more
that
interesting.
would be better.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then it's like, the more you play, the more likely you are to mess up in a way that is now irrecoverable.
Yeah.
You are so boned.
It also having more options and having this kind of spread and having things continue really incentivizes. One of the things that you two seem to have really been afraid of, right, is that the person in the past is doing all the work and has very little agency. I think that this is how you buy in. The person in the past, so if their first 2 cards were 6/6 and 1/1, think of the sunk cost fallacy that you should be role playing. If the guy in the future is like, things are pretty good, I think I want to be done, and past you is like, hi, I missed the birth of my first child and killed a man in Tulsa. I'm not settling for pretty good. Run it again, brother.
We're going. We're getting aces across the board or nothing.
Yeah. It incentivizes the person in the past to be like, no. This might be some old thing you barely remember. It happened to me yesterday. We're running again. You're kind of holding each other hostage as you continue.
A potential mechanic for the aces would be if you draw the ace on, relational, it could erase the negative effects of the previous attempts. So you're trying to get all aces, but if you're trying to get all aces, eventually you're going to pull that joker and you're going to fuck everything up forever.
I will say something I do, a version that I do like, Spencer, because you bring up a good point, which is that the future is going to kind of keep getting stranger. We could say that you awake the same morning, but you remember the previous day. So it's not like each letter is fresh. It's, okay,
you know everything.
Yesterday was bad. Today is better. Like, this is...
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I actually think I might like that a little better. If I think that was, I see the reason why you would kind of lean in that direction a little bit, because it keeps you from being like, wait, but the Terminators showed up 3 rounds again. Are they gone now? Like, no, they are still here. But we also drew that 1 king, so we have a lot of money while we're being killed by Terminators.
So it's all good.
It's like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's really, because otherwise it incentivizes things being a little too short. James has just said, Madlib each dice roll or card pull. 1 die is a noun and the other die is a verb. Horror is awesome. Cool. That would be really fun if we didn't write a setting.
Oh, if it was just it's
To determine
ship it off, there's no AI, nothing.
Yeah, to determine the initial issue, doing that, it'd be extremely funny for James' example here. 1 horror, 6 super awesome, cool. Rolling like 2-4, rolling like family member comedic situation. It would be like, I missed our wife's anniversary. You have to help me with 6 E's.
Let this go.
Like, I need you to just start changing stuff so I can try to not be in as much trouble as I am in right now. That'd be very fun without kind of a setting attached,
Yeah.
or as a way to like kind of spice up some of the other end there. So, all right. We have made a journaling game for 2 players where both characters can kind of end the game, right? The character in the past can refuse to continue, but the character in the future might lie to incentivize them to do things. And the character in the future can just stop writing letters, but if the character in the past is too unhappy with the last future that was described, they might just start doing stuff and seeing what it changes. We should probably come up with some alt rules for how that starts to like really mess with things. The player in the past rolls 1d6 to determine the difficulty of the task they need to attempt to complete, and then another d6 just to give them a fun prompt. 6-6 is stay at home today. What did you miss? 1-1 is take a life today. Who do you kill? Right? Brutal. The other character is drawing hearts, diamonds, clubs, or spades, probably either king through 10 or ace through 10, the sort of face cards. And they relate to relationships, resources, violence, and diplomacy. An ace means all is well with the opposite of a silver lining, with a tarnished lining that you need to just sort of deal with. A 10 means run it back. Things have gone horribly. After a number of rounds, you introduce the Joker. If at any time you pull the Joker, it is the worst of all realities. You are found, your ability to write letters to the past is gone, and past you needs to march to their doom, knowing that that is what is coming for them, knowing that there is no escape, and that the future has been sealed. That incentivizes you to make bold choices and stick to imperfect futures, and also the sunk cost of what you've already given up will help motivate the past character to want to keep going. We can't plan for people that aren't going to try. This is my biggest pro tip from DM Writer's Room. You can spend all the time in the world prepping a fantastic adventure that ties in the backstories of many different characters. Some players just don't pursue their backstories. They just don't care. The quest comes up and they go, all right, and stick to the main quest like a psycho playing Skyrim and immediately going after Alduin or whatever. You can't plan for that. The best you can do, prep like they're gonna have fun, and if they choose to be miserable, let them. You know, you gotta let them, let people make the choices they're gonna make. All right. I think this is pretty fun. I think we can get this one. This may be in the sort of one-pager. So look out. I think in the not-too-distant future, you might be able to pick this up on itch.io. And by the not-too-distant future, I mean in the next 9 to 18 months or so.
Yeah.
Because we've got some other irons in the fire, and you know how it is. With that, it is 9 o'clock, and I will say thank you all so much for tuning into another episode of DM Writer's Room. So next episode, we're not quite sure what we're doing yet. We have a kind of a fun idea for another setting to go back to the origins of DM Writer's Room. Our very first group of streams was us coming up with the sort of Wild West fantasy world of Prospect, which our current The Party Makes Things Worse game is in. Or maybe we were looking at some other, kind of interesting options. Swamp, as you no doubt remember us pitching to Swamp. We may yet return to those fair Everglades of mysterious magic to figure out what's going on in there. What is this alligator man that Spencer seemed to make vague allusions to? What's he up to in there? I guess if you want to know, you're going to have to hit the bell so that you don't miss any notifications or streams in the future so that next Tuesday you can watch. I guess you've got kind of no choice. That's unfortunate. We were just talking about agency, so go ahead. Go ahead and hit the bell. It's right there. Just touch that bell right there. Thank you all so much for watching. We will catch you on the next one. Peace out.